Thank you. Woo-hoo. It was still morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
First, I want to just start off by saying thank you for having us here. It's always a joy and a pleasure to be here amongst the people, the members of our conferences and congregations. It's always wonderful. Thank you to Sue and thank you to Daryl for this opportunity. I bring you greetings from the Reverend Dr. Patrick Dugan, who is the Executive Director of Church Bill and Loan Fund. I am the Associate Director for Strategic Initiatives for the Church Building and Loan Fund. And I'm excited about the possibilities and the future of all of our congregations, no matter where they may reside. So just a little bit about me so you know. I was raised in the United Methodist Church. Oops. But as an adult, I chose the United Church of Christ. I was an associate pastor for 10 years in a Presbyterian church. Oops. And I was a new church start pastor for 5 years with the UCC church in Atlanta. Atlanta is where I reside. I'm not feeling good today because my Kansas Jayhawks got kicked out of the March Madness early, but that's okay. That's my alma mater. They had their turn. All right now. It's all good. It's all good. The only thing that I ask of you today is to, be participants. If you have a question, I know that we have a panel at the end. And also, it was a shocker to come. I think I've never been here before to Denver. So I'm coming from Atlanta to Denver. And last week I was in Hawaii. So, I'm a shocker, right? There's snow on the ground. So I'm like, oh, but it's spring. So I refuse to bring that big puffy coat. And I bought just enough to stay warm. So it's good to be here. I'm here to talk to you about repurposing your building, but not necessarily your building, more like your resources, which is inclusive of your building for Revitalized ministry. How many people in here, your church has a vision? Raise your hand. If your church has keep them up. If your church don't have a vision, raise it up. Look, y'all scared? What's up? What's this? Raise your hand. Keep them up. Now, how many of you can tell me your vision right now? Congratulations. Okay, how many of your churches have missions? Raise your hands high. Come on now. Raise them high. What is it's still like, what is that? And how many of you can tell me your mission right now? Your mission statement. Not cheat. Look. Now I have to tell you that I was a kindergarten teacher for 6 years. Put that away. Woo. All right. So how many in here has reflected on their vision and or mission in the last 10 years? Oh, good. That's even better. Even though you don't know it, you reflected on it. Okay. That's good. That's good news. You should reflect on your vision and mission at least every 5 years. Why? Because your context changes all the time. And what you think your vision and mission should be for a particular community might change in that time frame. So you need to be aware. You need to have your elevator speeches ready. If you would meet somebody and you want to tell them about the church, you should be able to say something about your mission and your vision of your congregation. I don't know where I point. Where I point. Okay, am I? Oh, there we go. This is our vision: to transform communities by helping the church live into God's economy. God's economy. Not my economy, not your economy, not the world's economy, not societal's economy, but God's economy. United Church of Christ Church Building Loan Fund is the oldest building loan fund in the United States. Can you imagine that? Y'all didn't know y'all owned or a part of the oldest fund, did you? Yeah. Has planned and financed thousands of churches and real estate projects since 1853. Can you believe that? We do loan programs. We do individual consulting for capital campaigns and stewardship campaigns. We have what used to be an annual event, now it's every 2 years, Partners in Building event, where we invite churches to come to a particular designated place. They spend the weekend learning about repurposing, refocusing, everything from A to Z about your church and your church resources and your buildings. And if you have any projects or that dreadful thing we call deferred maintenance, we talk about that too as well. We have a Partners Envisioning program where if your congregations have huge or big or more complicated projects, say you want to do affordable housing or you want to start a preschool, we have a plan for that as well. We also have, which was our inaugural year last year, we did Adese Fellows. Those are spiritual entrepreneurs. Last year, our first go around at this, we had over 65 applicants. We chose 4 individuals to be in our cohort. They spent a year developing their venture in our program. We plan to have that again in 2020. And applications, if you know anybody who has a venture, who would like to participate in an annual program or year-long program, our application should be ready by April 1st on our website, cblffund.org. And then we also work with the Hope Partnership for Missional Transformation. Hope, has anybody heard of Hope? It's run by the Disciples of Christ. Oh, one, okay, good. Oh, well, all right then, that's good. Hope, and I'll talk about Hope a little bit more later in the program. And I forgot to take a note because I see some folk, my partners in crime, look like they gave me a side eye, but they would say they didn't. I know that the hot topic in the last presentation, at least one of them, was about pastors and knowing about giving and how we handle that and the whys and the woes. So we're going to take a little bit of our Q&A time to address that specifically, because we all have different experiences and understanding. So we're going to hold that, even though I'm going to talk about it a little. Church congregations, we need to lead when it comes to church projects, and I'm talking about in a given community or setting. I remember growing up, and the church was the hub of the community. Everything happened in the church that I remember. Parties happened in the church. I don't know if y'all didn't have no sock hop or whatever in the church. We did. We had parties in the church. Whatever you needed a lawyer, you came to the church. I don't know why, but you did. You came to the church. If you wanted a doctorate, you came to the church. The church buildings were there when there wasn't even municipal buildings. The mayor and everybody else met where? In the church. And now all of a sudden, we got this big transformation that happened over time where we began to say, oh, that's not holy. Oh, that's not right. Oh, that's sinful. Oh, we shouldn't get involved in that. And we, I believe, kind of stepped away from the community. We need to get back into the community. And some of that is through church-led projects. One of the things that we like to do is to generate income that stabilize and sustain and grow the church partners, our church partners, your church partners. We want to ensure that your future is sustained financially. And so we like to look at individual congregations to see what it is that you have within your own resources or sphere of influence to make that happen. Church-led projects also empower you to be active leaders in the community, which is one of the things I said earlier. We kind of just sit by the side now, and we create ministries for ourselves, and we expect people to come, and we haven't even asked the people in the community what it is that you want. We develop ministries for ourselves, and we get mad when no one shows. That whole build it and they will come, There's nothing true about that. Build it and you wait, and you be the only one sitting in the seat. We have to engage the community more. And when you do church-led projects, you should have community involvement. You shouldn't be the only ones making a decision about what is about to happen in community. You should be participating in community governmental organizations. Is anybody here, their churches have somebody that goes regularly to the city's planning committees? Nope, not a one. You need to send somebody to the city's planning committee so you know what's coming, what's happening, what are the trends, what are they thinking about? And then we can, be engaged in that piece. It empowers the quality of life through struggling communities through innovative mission-driven economic development projects linked to community needs. That's important. Linked to community needs. We create sustainable, scalable developments that counter systemic poverty and help communities live into God's economy. For I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me. All of those things exist in every community at some form or some degree. This is the economy that we're trying to usher, lead our congregations into a new vision, a new way of thinking about church, a new way of being in the world. And I need to make this one note too. I have to be a little bit more dramatic because this is on PDF and I had my PowerPoint that does pews and teams and all that stuff. So I don't have that. So this is a statement from our executive director. All the assets that we as churches own should be invested to advance the gospel imperatives Jesus talked about: ending poverty, restoring justice, investment policies of time, church facilities, and money that have social impact. We already are a good charity. Now churches have to become self-sustaining social enterprises. And why? Because that's where we live today. That's where we are today. If you can't recognize the times that we are living in, you can't make the transformations that we need to make to survive. And we're going to survive. I believe that totally. It's just about how and when and how long it's going to take you to get where you need to be to survive. So I don't think that like we're lacking anything. I think we have everything that we need if we're willing to transform, be open to it, and move forward. It all begins with your vision. The vision y'all didn't know? Can't tell me? It begins with a vision. Your vision has to be bold and compelling. It has to be what you see along with the members in your church, along with the community that you reside in, all your organizations that you belong to. What do they see the future of your church and your reason for being where you are located? What's the vision? What do you see? Have you painted the picture and painted it clearly? What do you envision? What do you think it should look like? And I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking about 10, 15, 20, 30 years out. You have to be thinking that far in advance so that you have goals to work toward, and that is a bold vision. Too many times we sell ourselves short as congregations and thinking that we can only do a little bit. No, we can do great things, grand things. Why? Because each and every one of you has a sphere of influence. You have organizations you belong to. You have people who you know. And we need to bring all of that, all those resources into the church so that we have a compelling vision. And leaders, it is not your vision. It's everybody's vision. I think it's important to say that because sometimes we as leaders, and I'm including myself in that, will say, we're going to do this. And then we say, this is what we're going to do to everybody. And they be like, no, that's what you're going to do. because I never said I agreed to that. From the beginning, you have to make an opportunity for everybody to be a part of that vision development so that you get buy-in early and everybody's moving in the same direction. Generate out of your vision is your mission, articulates the reason why you do what you do. This is what I hear most often. We want to do more. We want more people to come. We want more youth involved. We want more money. We want more. But that's really not what we really want. We want things that's going to make a change, that's going to be impactful, that's going to make a difference. I think Andy asked a question earlier. If your church was caught up in what we call the rapture and just disappeared, would anybody miss it? Or would they say, I think there was a church there. I can't remember the name of it, but I really think there was something there. But what are we going to do with that space now? Do you have that kind of influence in your community? Are you engaged with your community? And even take a step back from that is, have you engaged with your members beyond so-and-so sits in that pew every Sunday? Have you really taken a look at the resources your members bring? I say this to everybody because this is my experience as being a pastor. Everybody who's accountant don't want to be the treasurer. You know, they have other things they like to do. You know, I think I was amen in the gentleman right here who was saying, you know, he gives to other things outside the church. Find out what's important to the members in your congregation. And maybe some of the things that you decide to do are part of your vision are what's important to them too. If they're participating in other ministries and missions that the church is not engaged in, maybe that's something you might want to consider. Just maybe. Y'all too quiet. Can I get an amen? All right, now I feel better. Okay. Your church is why. What is the tangible public evidence and measurable mission impact of your church's leverage assets? That's everything that you do. Andy touched on it earlier about having a narrative budget. It's no longer helpful to say that we raised $10,000 for students. That's great. It's no longer helpful to say we raised $10,000 for students' scholarships and we gave 10 scholarships away. That's cool. But it's no longer, you got to go beyond that. So what happened to the students? Did they actually get into college? Did they actually graduate from college? Did they actually become productive citizens? That's important. That's where your impact comes in. So we have to be able to, you know, go beyond what we're doing. And guess what? Thank God to modern technology, there are several companies who are now equipped to measure your impact. So you don't have to do work. You just have to plug it in. Isn't that something? I think that's great. Thousands of vital congregations and church organizations with talent, lay, and clergy leadership advancing the gospel mission in church-owned buildings. Return on mission. Return on mission. The impact of advancing our mission. Range, I used to call it range of motion because I'm a therapist in my past, but tangible growth in the economy of God. And these are some of the things that we would expect from you when we become your partners. We are your partners. Church Building Loan Fund is actually your loan fund. You do know that, right? This is you're United Church of Christ, right? We're United Church of Christ, right? Right? So this is your church building loan fund, okay? There is no them out there somewhere. We're all in this together. Just so I want to make clear of that. But we would like you to, you know, synergy with CB on left. That increases our collective mission impact exponentially, develop church-owned real estate for the maximum capacity to advance mission. We do believe that money follows mission. That's us. Money follows mission. We want to get the maximum measurable, sustainable financial, organizational, and missional impact. Where do we begin? First, we got to look at ourselves, right? Got to ask questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What capacity do we have? You got to ask the question. How many of you have done asset mapping in your churches in the last 5 years? Okay, there's one. Or ever. Anybody's done asset mapping ever? Okay. We like to do what we call spiritual gifts. We love finding out what our spiritual gifts are. What we don't do quite well is asset mapping, which goes beyond spiritual gifts. What skills and gifts do your members bring into your congregation? Sometimes, and most times, those gifts and skills are things that can save you tons of money. You have a bulletin or a brochure you want to do, and guess what? Right in your congregation is a graphic designer, and you don't know that. You know why you don't know that? Because you haven't asked. You haven't done asset mapping in forever or never. There are skill sets and passions and interests that your members have that can be helpful in your ministry today and into the future. But we don't know that because why? We come to church, we sit in the same seat, we talk to the same people, we have coffee afterwards with the same people, which is something like it's always curious to me. Maybe you can help me with this. You know, we be watching our watches all the time during church. Pastor gone too long. It's over an hour. Oh my God. And then we get out and coffee hour and we stay 2 hours talking in coffee hour. My challenge to leadership is to sit somewhere else in the church, talk to people you haven't talked to before, go to the back of the pew, the middle of the pew, the right, left, wherever you go, and engage folk in general conversation. Get to know folk. There are people in our church we don't know. We're so good at it that we walking by somebody say, hey, how you doing? And by the time they answer, we way down out in the parking lot. We haven't heard a response or anything. Gather the information, not just for people in the church, but people in the community. Go to community organizations and groups and gather the information, assess your assets, and then plan strategically. Now, I have to say this because many of us have done strategic visioning and planning. Many of us. We have very lovely binders. And somebody knows what I'm talking about. Sitting on the shelf. And in another 10, 15 years, we decide we need to do another vision and strategic planning. We need to be clear about what we want in this process. And the biggest part of this, what we need to do, okay, here we go. Which one? Implement. So your strategic vision and planning and implementation process has to be clear, articulated. When I say implementation, I mean there are target dates and there are people responsible because that's the only way it's going to get done, right? And we have to hold each other accountable in this. And you have to have the congregation approval. But you did all that because you engaged them in the whole process and the community support, right? Not until this is done. You know why you're doing what you're doing. You have your mission and your vision, and you have the support of the congregation and the community. Then you can start working. Here's our example. St. Peter's, UCC, Molo Village, and CDC. This is a picture of their church. Well, it don't look like that now because it's still falling down. This is in Louisville, Kentucky. Some other parts of it was falling down. We affectionately call the pastor of the church Pastor J. And Pastor J came to us some years ago and said she needed $10 million to fix her church. And of course, we was like, $10 million is a lot of money for a church that probably had maybe 50 people, maybe. But she wasn't scared to ask. And usually, Church Building Loan Fund usually never says no, but we say not yet, because we need to know more about you, right? So in our investigation of the not yet, she went back, and then I think it was 1 or 2 years later, she came back to us and said, okay, I need $1 million to fix her church. So we were very curious about, you know, this ministry. Okay, here we have someone who's been engaging us. We brought her to our Partners in Building event. We've talked to her. We kind of understand, but what is actually going on in her community? This is located in a small suburb in Louisville, Kentucky, Russell community. It's one of the poorest communities in Kentucky. And so upon visiting there, we realized, one, they couldn't remain in this church. First of all, because the county or city was about to say, you can't be in this church because, you know, it needs some repairs. And so we entered into a partnership with them to figure out how she can best impact her community. And this is why. This is what, in this building that was about to be condemned, this is what she was doing. Molo Village, she had already established a CDC. This is what she had already put this plan. She knew why she was there. She had established her why. So we were able to move her into a facility that helped her do her why. So these are the stats that she had for us. She restored Village was one of the areas. Recently released 7-week program, 25 to 30 participants. They have seen 600 people per week. This is 50, we're talking about 50 people, right? Empowering the village, credit and wealth building. If you don't know, Louisville was one of the HUD choice places. By working with her and the city of Louisville, we were able to have her project be a part of the HUD choice. Now we have a development end of us that works through all those things. I don't know nothing about, no tax credit and all that stuff. I don't do that, but somebody does on our team. Work through to get her the only faith-based institution that's a part of this HUD choice project. And these are some of the other things that she was doing. You can read it. I don't need to read it. It's like tremendous work, right? But it was in danger of not happening because why? She had to move out of her church. So what we did with her is that through our sphere of influence and partnering with other denominational funds, which is key, because, you know, we have a sphere of influence too. So along with other denominational funds, we move them from that building that you saw previously into like a storefront that was pretty much abandoned. We redid the storefront so they could have their ministries there. They're located there right now, while we're now, and the surprising thing about that is that now the storefront, the whole little storefront shopping area is full with people and businesses. But the big part about this is that through our collaborative efforts, engaging with the community and the local government and the members of the church, which have grown since, you know, they can see what's happening. We've collected a bunch of partnerships. So now we're in the process of finalizing what is going to be the Molo Village. Ta-da! Sometime in late spring, we will be breaking ground on her building. It was a collaborative effort, but it was her forethought and understanding why she refused to leave that community, understanding why she was there, and us learning that she understood why she was there and why that ministry was so important to that community and what those community needed. She was willing to do the work. And now this is the result. So this, oh, and I failed to say that she owns a city block of land that the city wanted to buy. And we told her to say no to the city. So this is on one corner of the city block and the church is on the other. So we will be rehabbing building this village and rehabbing her her church. So that's why it's important to know why you exist in a certain place. Because grand things, you don't have to be on this large scale. Grand things can happen. One church we worked with, all they did was change the area where they were having their coffee hour, made it more accessible to other people, other groups. They redid it. Now other groups in the community rent it out, hold receptions there, hold meetings there, hold all kinds of stuff there. It's the small things and the big things. It's all the things. But we can do this. But you have to know why you are in that community. You can take your land, your buildings, and reshape them. We are currently working with Central Atlantic Conference on a project that will consist of 10 different churches and 10 different locations in their conference. But we are coming together collectively to decide collectively what's best for each individual church. Some will be building affordable housing. Some will be building preschools. Some will be closing and joining other churches and utilizing their property for a space like this. So there are lots of options. The options are endless. The opportunities are endless. I am of the belief we have everything that we need. I mean, everything. I believe, I have faith. I believe in what my faith tells me about abundance. There's plenty for everybody. We have all the resources we need. The world wants to tell us there's not enough. Scarcity, there's not enough, there's not enough. I don't believe that. And I challenge everybody that I come in contact with, what do you believe? Are you following what society says about scarcity? So you want to withhold everything and save, and you know we do that. We got to hold on to everything. Or do you believe that God will provide? For me, it's a faith move. You either believe what God says or you don't. I ain't getting no amens on that, but okay. I told y'all the preacher. If you're not familiar with the Hope Partnership, those are some of the programs, New Beginnings, for the congregation that knows it can't continue as it is, but doesn't know what to do yet. You got Mission Pathways for a congregation that wants to move forward and needs a plan. They also have Epiphany for a congregation longing to become a transformative presence, both inside and outside of the church walls. Those are some of the programs of Hope Partnership that our regional mission interpreters are trained in and can implement with our congregations. Okay. We also have a branch that deals with legacy. If you don't know Reverend Dr. David Shane, he is our legacy minister for Church Building Loan Fund, and he produces we have a new tool that's called Facing Your Church's Uncertain Future. It's available through UCC Resources. I think there's a May 2nd online Zoom workshop coming up, so look for that. And it's very engaging. These are the kind of loans that we do: site purchase, building purchase, refinance, energy and environmental upgrade, church building, disaster recovery, all that kind of stuff. You can find that, my brochure's over there, or just go on our website or drop me an email. These are our services that we do, which I spoke about. Now, if there are any questions. Oh, he wrote his down. Let me read it. You followed the instructions. I'm so proud of you. Well, I know that's what I'm talking about. All right. What about rural churches with aging and diminishing populations? Can we, I like that. See, he wrote you, didn't he put we? That's right. Can we provide more than hospice care? Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't see why we can't. We need to find out what it is that you need and what is your why. If you have determined your why in the current context that you reside in, we see everybody. One of our regional mission interpreters can come and they'll do one wherever you're located, we give you one free informational meeting. We'll send our RMI out there. They'll talk to you about things we do. They'll ask you about things you want to do or what your vision and mission is. They'll map out a plan to move forward. The biggest piece for me in terms of rural is really, it's the same issue. It's like, what is the context of the community in which you reside? And what is the reach that you want to have in that community context? It's all about looking at what's there. And we do the mission insight study, demographics, what's there, why you feel you should remain there, and what does the community need? That's what the issue is. So in the same way, we have, I did a church, I can't, where's the city? It's in New Hampshire. I can't, but it's way up in the mountains somewhere. I know I went what I call snow falling. It was supposed to be snow skiing, but I was snow falling. But I did a capital campaign with them. And one of their concerns was that they had a youth program that they were running. They're the only youth program in the town, right? And we were doing a capital campaign. And a portion of capital campaign was supposed to be to enhance this youth program, right? And do some rehab on the facility that they were doing it in. One of the questions I asked them was what I presented earlier was, have you gone to the city and looked at the city planning committee? They had not. I said, go and see what the city is planning for the youth. Now, mind you, it's not that many youth. It's a small town, but it is some, right? And they want to provide something. Well, the city had a plan to do something. They didn't have a place or where. So as a part of my talking to them and instructing them and counseling and consulting them through a campaign, I said, why don't you ask the city, since they don't have a place, to give to your campaign? Just like, to give to our campaign? I said, yeah, ask them. I said, you have not, because what? You ask not, right? So, you know, after teaching them how to make an ask and how to do this and develop a relationship, they went to the city. And they asked for what? $5,000. I was like, okay. The city gave them 10. And I said, see, you could have had 20, but you didn't ask for 20, but you asked for 5. But what that did was help them. They refurbished the community center and they added staff to the community program, and they were able to serve more youth in their community. So it can happen. We just need to do a thorough study about what the context is. That's everything. And then what the church feels is their why. Why are they here? They have to re-ask themselves in the current context, not when you was created back in 1883, right? But why are you in this community right now? And that's whether it's urban or rural. You have a purpose. I believe you have a purpose for being there. And together we determine what that is.
Just give us a couple of examples of how you've helped repurpose some buildings, so gives kind of, gets our imaginations going.
Okay. Well, again, let me just say that it remains on the context. Okay, so there's let's see, where is it? I can't remember. There's a church. It's one of my first capital campaigns I did. And they wanted to do. They had a kitchen, and they were just gonna redo their kitchen. We encouraged them to do a commercial kitchen. And I can send you a list, because I'm not gonna be. I told you about my memory. I'll tell you the truth. I'll send you some examples to you, Sue, and then you can disseminate it to the attendees here. But they was just gonna redo their kitchen. We encouraged them to do a commercial kitchen. Why? Because once we did the survey around the land, there were people and places and small businesses who didn't have the space to do what they wanted to do. So once they did a commercial kitchen, they were able to rent out the kitchen to small bakeries, to small catering services, and all that kind of stuff. But it depends on, where you reside. Another one that they were doing re-entry programs, providing homes. They had 4 apartments that they were doing, and they wanted to grow it, but they needed to have some community engagement. Now, it's not always about changing, but this was their property. They had 4 units on their property, but it's about growing it. And so one of the things I asked is, have you asked the community to be engaged in this ministry that you have in terms of reentry? They really hadn't. They were dependent on the church members to do that. And you know what happens when you depend on church members, they get kind of tired, right? So what ended up happening is kind of rehabbing the buildings that they were using, engaging the community for their input, and the community decided that they were going to furnish the 4 apartments. And not only were they going to furnish the 4 apartments, but when the people got ready to move, they were able to take everything with them. And the community decided they were going to replenish the apartments. It's that kind of innovative thinking, but it relies on context. Everything relies on context and why you think you're there. And so there are tons of little examples like that, and smaller examples, you know, of just renovating your fellowship hall, and now you can have receptions there, and you can have community meetings there, and other kinds of things. Especially in the rural towns when there's not a whole lot of meeting spaces, that usually become one of the popular things, is that we need meeting spaces for organizations besides the public library, because that's the other thing that they have. So, but it's really contextual. But I can send you a list, because I won't be able to remember all the names. That's not my forte. It's written down, I can read it, but I can't remember it. Oh, you got a question? I'm gonna come over here. We're gonna be fair.
Can you suggest some basic resources to discover the context of the community in which the church is located?
Sure. When you're asking context, are you talking about demographics and stuff like that? You know, you do have access to Mission Insight, correct? Your conference has access to Mission Insight, and they can get your demographics through Mission Insight. I think every conference has access to it. Churches need to know that you can get it through them. But I will say to you that you still need to engage the community yourself. You have to go to whoever's having a meeting, the community meetings, the local government meetings, whatever the organizations are in your community. You need to have someone go, and they don't have to say anything. They can listen to see what's happening. If you're not engaging those organizations within your own community, you won't know what's going on. You'll be left out of the planning, and you might create something that nobody wants. Exactly. That is a great point. They don't care if you're not going to get involved. They don't care. But we have to get involved. You know, that I think that's what we stopped doing, being involved in the community. And we have to get back to it. Go knock on some doors like we used to. Hello. I ain't getting no amen on that. Nobody want to go outside the walls. Come on. I think I'm done. You had some, Andy? You better come on up here. Huh? You got to have a mic. She said you got to have a mic. Hi, Zoom.
I was going to piggyback on that on a church that I know, because they're not going to go out and knock on doors. Right. Their philosophy became, we're going to blow the doors off the church. We're going to bring as many people in this church as we can for all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And then we're also going to invite them to be a part of the church. But that's it. You know, if they're here, say hi, welcome them, invite them in, tell them what we're about. Because we're not going out knocking on doors. Sorry.
You're right. A church, just a last note. The church I did a capital campaign with in Philadelphia, their doors, when you looked at their property, it looked so closed off. They had big old fence around and all stuff. They changed the fence and they changed their doors to glass. And more people started coming in because of that, because they could see in and they wanted to see more. Something that simple, you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.